Hello world and true believers. This is Brenda, a lost Aspie girl, and I wanted to make this video. This kind of be a repeat of a video I deleted the other day, where in the video that I still have up, it's called about gender equality. I mentioned there a book that I wrote called Girl Warrior, which I haven't tried to publish yet, but I talked about it a little, and I made a video kind of sharing some of that in there. But I decided in this video I wanted to share a couple of additional things with you guys, because there are a couple of other books that I'm working on, and the cover art is a work in progress and everything like that. But I wanted to show you guys that as well. And before I even get into that, when I made that video, I deleted. There's one of the commenters out there, Lindsay. And this frustrates me because I don't know what's going on with her comments, but whenever I try to either reply to her comment, it disappears, or I'm able to access it, but then it won't let me reply directly back to her comment. So that's frustrating. And she wrote something to me about me being brave and being so open about these things. And I wanted to say in this that I don't think it's as much about bravery as it is. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Fight Club, but it's one of my favorite movies. And in there, Tyler Durden says, it's only when you lose everything that you're free to do anything. I actually think that's a line in Sucker Punch 2. I don't know if you guys see the movie. Visually stunning. I love the concept. I don't know if I like the execution of the movie, but I won't get into that fully right now. But that's more like what it is. Like I'm not working right now, and there's other things that I've lost in the last couple of years. And I think that when that happens in your life, it does. It frees you to feel like, fuck it, I guess I can do whatever. Not that you don't care anymore, just that you don't feel like you don't have all these tethers, all these things pulling you back, saying you have to be super careful, or you're gonna lose your job, or you're gonna do this or that. When all that's gone, you're just free to fucking do whatever. So I think it's less bravery than that. Okay, so. And in here, like I told Naysayer I was going to also not only just show the cover art, but I was going to talk about this in Girl Warrior in here. And I cut out my name and everything except for Brenda, since you guys already knew that. This is the cover of Girl Warrior. So the G is supposed to look like a gladiator helmet, and then the L is a sword, obviously. And then I put a little heart of a warrior to show it's kind of like the girl, And then in the front of it, it also says, on the bottom, it says my philosophy for this which is shield the girl while she's in your care, protect her temporarily, but teach a girl to protect herself and defend her and protect her for a lifetime. So that's kind of part of the premise, but it's also about girls being on the spectrum. But after I wrote this, I thought about it a little bit. I feel like that alienates a lot of guys that are on the spectrum. So I decided that there needed to be a second book that's kind of similar, so there would be a lot of parallels between the two, except this other book won't be gender specific. It will apply to anybody on the spectrum, and it will have less of a message of gender equality and things like that. And it's called and this cover art is in process. I still need to work on it a little bit, but it's called Human by Proxy, Aspie by Nature. See, I use the A to do that, but I still need to add some art to that. But I just wanted to get, I always like to have a work in progress for it to give me, it gives me because I think in pictures, and I like sometimes I even something as simple as that, I need something to anchor my thoughts to. And then I actually wanted to make, because I realized in those two books, I wanted them to be more about sharing some of my philosophies and some of my adventures and experiences and things like that, and then kind of deconstruct them like a lot of times I do in my videos. But then I realized I wanted something that was just more based on my philosophies and what I consider my NeuroAtypical axioms, like where a self-evident truth. Well, I think a self-evident truth to a lot of us on the spectrum, but aren't necessarily to everybody else. And I wanted something that was a comprehensive compilation of that. And so that's why I'm trying, like, again, the A's I have Aspie, Auti, Alien. And again, that's I want to put some art in there, but it's my working cover art for that. And and I'm going to get into those in a second. I also want to talk about my Foxy Frog story, which is the beginning of Girl Warrior, and then actually start a NeuroAtypical, and that's actually also the start of human human by proxy. But I wanted to also give you the first chapter, not the first chapter, but the beginning introduction of a neurotypical axiom, because I thought that also will give you some perspective on what that's going to be about. And then I also wanted to share with you guys, because I know that I've showed you guys some of my art before, but I actually made a compilation of all my art and my poetry, and I know I've kind of mentioned that. And this is the cover art for that. I call it a prismatic tangle, and that is the cover. And then it just gets into it's like just my, I take photographs of different weird things, like my eyeball, and then I'll write like a poem to go with it. And you guys have seen some of my art, but this will show you some of my other art. And this one is called The Death of Innocence. And there's the poem on the bottom of that is pretty short, but it's just basically about when you, especially for girls, when you get to that certain age, when you realize life isn't all rosy, and that's what, hence the blood that goes across it. I starts off with saying something like redacted innocence, when it's kind of tarnished by that. And if you want, you could probably pause it and read the poem if you want to. This is another one that's called Dusk in Limbo. I have with the little tree and the whole thing. And this is another one that's kind of, again, I don't know what it is about me writing my poem in different meters, almost sometimes sonnet form. I think it's a lost art, and I guess I decided to take it back. I mean, that's enough. You guys don't need to see any more, but you get the idea. Okay, so there's all of that. And then, okay, I'll tell you the story of the Foxy Frog, and then the beginning of a NeuroAtypical Axiom. So, Foxy Frogs is, all my life, and this always frustrated me, and I don't know if you guys know about the fable of the scorpion and the frog. And anytime anything bad happened in my life, people would always be not always, but it happened enough time that I got frustrated, where they would say things like, you can't change the nature of something, all you can do is avoid it. And a lot of times they would use that fable as an analogy, and that frustrated me. If you guys don't know it, I'll tell you it real quick. So there's a scorpion. He wants to get across the river, and he sees a frog beside the river, and he walks up to the frog and says, will you give me a ride across the river? And the frog says, no, you'll sting me and kill me. And the scorpion's like, that would be stupid, because then we'll both die. And the frog thinks about this and says, that makes sense. Lets the scorpion jump on his back, and as they're going across the river, the scorpion stings the frog, and they both die. And they both start to drown, and the frog it says to the scorpion before they drown, you're like, why? Now we're both gonna die. And the scorpion says, because it's in my nature. And that bothered me. So I decided that I wanted to rewrite that fable. And I decided to rewrite it. And my first edition was the Scorpion and the Foxy Frog. But maybe that is a better title. You guys can tell me what you think. Okay, so the title of the story is The Scorpion and the Foxy Frog. This fable trickster hero style. And it starts out the same, where the scorpion walks up to the Foxy Frog, and the Foxy Frog is female, and the scorpion says, "May I have a ride across the river?" And the Foxy Frog says, "No, you'll sting me and kill me." And the scorpion again says, "If I do that, then we'll both die. If not, that would be silly." The Foxy Frog considers this, says, "Hold on a moment," comes back with a poppy seed and says, "Eat this, and I'll take you across the river." And the scorpion says, "Why?" And she says, "It doesn't matter. Eat it, or I won't take you across." So the scorpion does so, jumps on the Foxy Frog's back, and as they're going across water, the scorpion's about to sting the Foxy Frog, but he falls into a deep sleep, and the Foxy Frog considers dumping him in the water, changes her mind, brings him across the water, jumps him on the other side, and jumps away a little bit. The scorpion wakes up and says, "How? Why?" And she says, "It might be in your nature to sting and kill, but it's in the nature of the Foxy Frog, the trickster hero or heroine, to find a better way. A way that's win-win, where we don't get hurt or killed." and she bounds away to live another day. And Scorpion lives another day to tell everyone else about the foxy frog who found a way that was win-win, where nobody was hurt or killed. Blah blah blah, something like that. There's more to it than that, but I can't remember my exact verbiage, which is weird because I'm the one who wrote it. But so that gives you guys an idea of that. And the rest of the story goes on about that, because I talk about, my gender equality video, some of the things that bothers me. Like, I think that the feminist cause has potential, but I think that in some ways it defeats itself, because it puts it limits women and puts stipulations. Says, women, we will champion your cause, but only as long as you do it according to our criteria, which is another form of slavery. It's saying you're enslaved to what we say is the right way of doing it. And I say, like, that's holding women back as well, because because it's tethering it's limiting women. And I say the only way that you can transcend these limitations is if you don't allow them to be there in the first place. Like, the feminist cause should champion women no matter what she decides to do, whether it be like a CEO of a company, or to be a doctor, or a pilot, or a warrior, or a stripper, or a mom. Whatever she decides she wants to do, the feminist cause say that is your right to do whatever the fuck you want. And it blows my mind that the UN, through Wonder Woman, I'm going to say this again because I bears repeating, for being too provocative, because that is regression. I'm sorry, people, but it really is. So there's that. And it's about all that, but also I get into a lot of, I think appearance, because the thing is, right now, the fact of the matter is, men are bigger than us, I think that more parents need to teach girls how to defend themselves, because the same gender that's supposed to be our protectors are also our predators. And if we don't know how to defend ourselves, then there are going to be, especially when you go away to college and stuff like that, where bad things might happen. And I can give you guys a story. I told it in the last video. I'll tell you guys real quick. So this is after college. I was friends with this girl. We went to this bar, and she got really drunk. She was actually my girlfriend, but we won't get into that. But she got really, really drunk, and we had walked to the bar, and she was not able to walk. And we were actually, like, on the sidewalk trying to walk home, and she kept vomiting, and she wasn't in a good way. And these men came up to us and said, "Hey, we live in the apartment upstairs. Do you want to come up? You can sleep on the couch, no problem." So we were like, okay. And one of the guys takes her into the bathroom to help her, and the other guy's out in the living room where I'm folding out the couch, and I'm bent over, and he is behind me, and all of a sudden I feel his hands on my hips trying to pull down my pants. I kicked back, and I felt it connect. I heard a groan. I ran into the bathroom because I wasn't going to leave my friend there, obviously. And luckily the other guy was very nice, because I tell him what happened. I was like, "Your friend just fucking tried to pull down my pants," and he was like, "Holy fucking shit! I'm sorry. I know I swear a lot. I have no filter." And he felt really bad, and he drove us both home. But if he hadn't been nice, then we both would have been screwed, And I think that a lot of times us Aspies we're not good, especially females. We're not good at sensing danger. We're not good at and we don't understand why we're not allowed just to be the way we are without people preying on us. That's not how the world works. And so, and I mean, that goes across the board to other girls, because there are other girls that are just as naive and innocent. Innocent isn't the right word. Naive isn't always necessarily the right word either. But sometimes we have difficulty understanding that our actions precipitate bad things happening to us, and even when we have bad things happening multiple times, and I think that I don't want to blame a whole gender for that, because I think that because I have my own hungers, and that sometimes I'm not saying that it's okay to not control certain things, but I think that if we learn to protect ourselves, then it would help to mitigate some of that. You know what I mean? Another coping mechanism that I've come up with, and I talk about this in the other video that I deleted, is like, and this has happened to me a few times, but I'll just tell you about the most recent time. I was walking down the street. I go to a support group. It's a couple of miles away, and I walk pretty much everywhere now. I hate when the train goes by. Sometimes I yell at it, and I go, "Shut up, train!" I hate because I'll get into that whole thing about sensory stuff. But okay, so that's restaurant Tony. Oh, so like if I'm walking somewhere and this is one of the things I come up with. I learned a long time ago. Guys don't like crazy. They're scared of crazy girls, and they will pretty much leave a girl alone if she's crazy. Most girls, if a guy tries to talk to her, she'll either try to do the bitch thing, or she'll try to be nice about it and just be like, oh, no. Most of these tactics don't work. What I learned works the best is to act crazy in the moment. Because the thing is, like I said, guys don't do crazy. So if a bunch of guys come to talk to me, or one guy, whatever, and I don't feel comfortable in this situation, I just do this. Ugh! Seriously. And you guys probably just got scared right now. That scares the shit out of guys. I don't even know. And like, and if so, like, tell your daughters that. Like, seriously, like, because I don't think that it's okay. I don't think women should have to neuter themselves to live in this world, to make other people more comfortable or whatever. Like, I think that you should be able to own who you are and own your nature and everything like that, and not have to worry about it. And the only way we're going to do that is to come up with creative tactics of dealing with this. So that's what Girl Warrior is about. Okay. And Human by Proxy, Aspie by Nature also is about being on spectrum. Takes a lot of the stories from that and it makes it more gender irrelevant. Applies across the board. Like, one of the stories that I get into in there is like in both of them is when I went to college. Like, I remember if anybody who went away to college, you remember, I don't know how it is now, but when I was in college, you got this thing in the mail and asked you which dorm you wanted you're gonna be in. You had a couple of different choices, and my first choice was the quiet dorm, because in my mind the thing I was thinking about is like, maybe I would want to go out somewhere and socialize and stuff like that, but I wanted where I lived to be my haven, my sanctuary. And that wasn't going to happen if I lived in the freshman dorm or any place that was going to be loud. So I didn't even choose any of those. My first choice was the quiet dorm. I wanted to get a single, but my parents talked me out of it. They were like, if you do that, you're never going to go out, you're never going to socialize, and you need to do that. And when I went to college, like, one of the first people that I met, this girl, she was very, very social. Maybe I'll get into all that stories in another video. But one of the things, like, she made the assumption that I was just as social as she was. She kind of latched herself onto me. I remember I used to hide from her sometimes to get away from her because she would frustrate me so much. But one of the things, we ended up living together our sophomore year, and she would, like, I remember on Friday night she would get really angry with me because she would be, first of all, when she first met me, she thought it was very weird that I lived in the quiet dorm. She's like, why would you do that? She's like, everybody's going to think you're a dork. I'm like, well, then they're stupid, because this makes total sense. If I want to go out, I can go out, and I can go someplace where there's a party, but then I can go home and go to sleep. I can study. I have a place to go that's quiet, and I don't need to worry about it. Why wouldn't I want to do that? That seemed completely logical and rational in my mind. And I think in a weird sort of way, this friend, she's like, wow, she's so comfortable with herself that she's willing to live in the quiet dorm. I think in her mind, this fed into her delusion that I was like this party girl and that I was going to do all these things with her. So sophomore year, we decided to live together. And like on Friday night, she would get mad. She'd be like, everybody's going to think we're dorks if we don't, like, we got invited to these parties. Everyone's going to think we're dorks on Monday if we don't go to these parties. I'm like, what are you talking about? Nobody knows what we're doing. We can lie and say that we went to a bunch of clubs. We can say whatever. I'm like, if you want to go to the party, you can go. I'm not going to a party myself. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to go right now. And we had this totally different philosophy on things. Like, if I wanted to go out, I went out. But I that's one thing I never gave into when I was younger, and I think this is something that's very, very typical of us on the spectrum, and hence the rigidity of thinking, so we don't give into peer pressure. If we don't want to do something, there's no fucking talking us into it. And she would get very, very mad at me, and she would like tease me sometimes and call me a dork. In fact, sometimes I used to tell her she was my cock block, because like if we did go out and we did go to a club or a party, one of her favorite things to do, if I was talking to a guy, was to come up to him and be like, just FYI, she likes Star Trek. Like somehow this was going to ruin everything for me. But it usually it backfired on her, because guys usually be like, really? You like Star Trek? Let's chat about that. And I was like, ha ha ha. But, okay. So, there's that. And then that's what those two books about, just kind of like the stories, the adventures of being on the spectrum. One is more gender specific and about more a little bit about equality, and the other one is just about being on the spectrum and what that's like, and it applies more across the board. A neurotypical axiom is more about, like I said, a compilation of my specific of the philosophies or inherent truths that I think a lot of us on the spectrum see that other people don't see, and it's for for anybody to read to kind of give insight into us. And I'll read a little bit the introduction and what it says. It says, I think truly independent and logical thinkers don't try to talk anyone into anything. So the book's not meant to convince you of my way of thinking. I am fully cognizant I may be wrong. Being right isn't the point. I value the intellectual independence of others too highly to want to convince anyone when it comes to important or personal type shit. But I do want to inspire conflict, to provoke and potentially challenge others to think critically, inform innovative and independent thoughts and opinions, to find their own personal truth or truths. I've been trying to remain open to all feasible perspectives by playing the devil's advocate, by reading any and all opposing views that often make me uncomfortable, and then arguing to myself so I can try to kind of overcome that cognitive dissonance, arguing their viable and valid points accordingly. Because I think that even if I don't agree with something, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not valid. So independent thought is my only purpose. I'm writing this book not as a viable solution, but as a means to prompt people to think outside the typical patterns of thinking and to come up with solutions of their own. And then I talk about how I want to save the world, but I know that that's probably not likely. But hopefully maybe I'll be able to help it to save itself. Because I want to be an optimist. So there's that. And the other thing I want to do, since I said this is a video about sharing, I've been wanting to talk about some of my favorite movies for a while, and I haven't really gotten into that. As I mentioned, Fight Club is one of my top 5 favorite movies. And the several favorite lines in that one I told you guys about it's only when you lose everything that you're free to do anything. But also another favorite line is when Tyler Durden basically meets himself on the plane, and he's talking about single-serving friends, and Tyler Durden, the version of himself, says, "That's clever." And he's like, "Thank you." He's like, "How's that working out with you, being clever?" And I always love that line. And so other movies, they're my favorite movies. Like when I was a kid, Never Ending Story, I watched that, I remember, 11 times one weekend. Actually, I stayed up. My mom came home downstairs. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Watching Never Ending Story." She's like, "How many times have you seen this movie?" I was like, "I don't know." And when I do that, I watch a movie on repeat. I've seen The Dark Knight now 153 times because I watched it again the other day. I do that when I start to if I'm having a hard time. I don't know what it is, but it's soothing to me to watch a movie that I love again, and I repeat the lines. Like I kind of talk about dialectic, and part of the reason I like comic books in general, not just the films, is the fact that I like the concept of like duality, and how like it shows two opposing forces, and how sometimes they dance together harmoniously. Like the Joker says to him at one point, "This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object." That's the irresistible forces paradox. It's not supposed to be possible, yet the manifestation of each of their opposing character selves, like it actually causes that supposedly implausible truth to come alive, and they do this dance, this harmonious dance, like in perpetuity. Like not in that movie because obviously Heath Ledger died, but I mean in the comic books it's like that. Like because like as much as the Batman is the other side of the Joker coin. The Joker is pure chaos, but Batman is pure order. He only has this one rule, but he never breaks it. And the Joker so badly, like they feed each other, and it's almost like the more Batman tries to impose his order on the Joker, the crazier the Joker becomes, the more he becomes the manifestation of chaos itself, incarnate. And he's actually willing to die to actually get the Batman to break his one rule. That's how crazy he is. He's like, you can see it in the movies when he's like, "Come on, do it. I want you to do it. I want you to." And then, the Batman crashes because he can't do it. He wants to, but he can't do it, and it's kind of that whole thing, and how the Joker lies. Like, he lies like purposefully to like misguide everybody, and it's I don't know. That's one of my favorite movies. Like, one of my favorite parts in that movie is when Batman's kind of like berating the Joker, and he's like, "Don't talk like that. Like, you're one of them. You're not. You're a freak like me. Like they support you now, but you see when the chips are down, they'll cast you out, because the fact of the matter are when the chips fall, something like that. When the chips are down, they'll piss themselves because I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve." Or something like that. And I actually rewrote that. I wrote this whole parody of the Dark Knight called and it has Harley Quinn in it. It has Harley Quinn in a dumb night moment, and it takes all like the lines from the Dark Knight, and it twists them around of Harley. It's kind of like Harley Quinn, but as a Joker, kind of dealing with Batman, and it's a whole thing, because I always kind of like they've changed it now, especially in Suicide Squad. But one of the beauties of the relationship between the Joker and Harley Quinn is how they were together, how the mad love that they have. But also on top of it, he, as much as he has this weird connection and sometimes obsession with her, like I don't remember if it was in the animated series or actually in Mad Love, the comic book, where he says, I would kill Harley, except she wouldn't get the joke. Like, that's fucked up. So there's all of that. I also like I just watched Iron Fist recently. I watched it twice. It actually bothers me that critics kind of panned it. I feel like they don't get the concept. Like, one of the biggest criticism is the fact that he's not Asian. But if you guys know anything about the comic book or the story of him, it wouldn't make sense if he was Asian, because he's supposed to be an outsider in Kunlun. And he climbs to the top anyway. And also on top of it goes into the whole duality thing, where he has to reconcile Danny Rand, the rich boy, with becoming the Iron Fist, which is a completely two opposing entities within himself. And I always just love that concept of the duality in comic books. Even with, like, Superman is something I stopped liking a lot, as much as I did when I was younger. But first of all, there was things that I loved and things I hated. One of the things I hated about Superman, and I think one of the reasons I started turning away from it, more than just the fact that everything's very black and white, but the fact that he always says, "I can't lie, it's impossible for me alive," when his fucking whole existence is a lie. Like, being Clark Kent is, once he finds out he's Superman and Kal-El, like he Clark Kent becomes a lie. That becomes his alias. And having an alias is a lie. He's living a double life. Yeah, he, like, as Superman, he's like, "I can't lie, it's impossible to lie." What are you talking about? You lie all the fucking time. Like, that is very interesting to me, and I feel like that right there, like, kind of exemplifies the whole concept of, like, the neurosocial mindset of, like, if they say that they don't lie, then if they don't lie most of the time, then they're not lying, even though, like, they'll lie about a bunch of other, that's the thing, but they're lying to themselves. Usually they don't even understand that, because I don't care if people lie. I'm fine with that. Because I think there's no way to survive in this world without lying. However, what I don't like is when people are like, and I'm not going to say I haven't been in denial before, because I've been in denial about a lot of shit. The thing is that usually once it's pointed out about me, I might deny it at first, but there's just like a seed in my head and I start thinking about it. And I think, like, and then this goes again, I want to make that whole video on ego and the different aspects of egos between the neurosocial and the neuroatypical or spectrum mindset. Okay, so there's that. And also, when I grew up, like I told you guys, in that gender equality, my obsession with Wonder Woman and Red Sonja when I was little, I was just like the concept she was very primal and a warrior. Like the concept that no man could really have her unless he beat her in a fair fight. The fact that she forced men to fight her at all to have her. I just kind of like that, because I think that's kind of hot. Okay, so I am making this too long, so I'm going to stop. And I got in some movies. Maybe I'll make another one with all my favorite movies throughout time. If you guys ever want to see some of my favorite movies, if you go into my favorites playlist, you'll see a lot of them in there, as well as a bunch of other things. Some of my favorite lines and different things and weird stuff. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you guys all for watching. And have a good day. I'm going to say what I was telling Naysay, one of my favorite things I used to say. People got used to get mad at me. I would say Roger, Vixen, Foxtrot, Romeo, Juliet, Crazy Face, and other weird ass shit. Over. Bye.